Hey guys, this is Cole Liker.
Hi, I'm Neil Collins.
You are listening to the Unused Substitute.
The Unused Substitute.
And you're listening to the Unused Substitutes.
Get off the bench!
Hey there, Little Red Riding Hood, I got a problem and it's complicated. Going through text and I just can't ignore the signs. There now it's so loud it hurts. Hear me growl, hear me howl with the full moon.
On the throw, ball gonna bounce down a screen in the box. Bicycle kick! Goal! Rowdies! What a play! What a shot! And it's 1-0 Rowdies!
Hear me growl, you see me run, you see me jump. Try to fight, but I emerge with the prize in hand. You better watch out, it's gonna take more than what you got. All eyes are on me and the silence is deafening. You're so helpless against this full moon. Don't ever say I didn't warn you, because I came to play, came to play, I came to play, came to play, I came to play, came to play, I came to
Dorsey wrist off. Oh, around the Bengals! He takes the Bengal off!
Good evening, everybody. You're listening to the Unused Substitutes live on Radio St. Pete, part of the Beautiful Game Network, and sponsored by Roughneck Scarves. I am a terrible host and forgot to pick out an executive producer for this week again. So you know my name is Max. I'm the one making all the mistakes. Across from me is a guy who would love to score twice in 76 seconds. Steven, how you doing tonight?
Sad. Very sad. It's a slow week because there's nothing really going on anymore because it's all over.
When we refer to it's all over. We're talking, of course, about the Rowdies doing the SpongeBob meme and just I'm a head out of the playoffs, falling 2-1 to Louisville at Slugger Field. I guess the best thing we can say about this is that you can't really blame this on the field. Like there weren't any horrible refereeing calls. There weren't any weird turf monster incidents. As far as we know, you couldn't see the game half the time because of the rain-soaked camera that was being used. But as far as I know, like hats off to Louisville, they beat us. Okay, there's no complaining about that. I mean, there's complaining about it, but not the complaints that we thought we could have.
Yeah, when you just turn off the lights for 76 seconds and, allow 2 goals. And Oh, so this is the funny part about this game, actually, is that we really didn't play all that bad, all things being considered. We lost a playoff game, but we played with a lot of players that haven't played together on the field in the positions in the lineup that they've done. So with as ramshackle as that was, I'm actually, if this is a mid-season result, you'd actually be encouraged by it.
Yeah.
I think that's my biggest takeaway. If this happened in July, this would have been a good game. Everybody would have walked around going, okay, we'll take it.
Well, and you and I were both at the watch party at Al Lang, and number one, after that little 76-second interlude where Louisville scores twice, basically from the same situation, I think we all thought it was going to end up as like a 5 or 6-0 game, and the fact that it didn't seemed like it was pretty good. But I remember going home and thinking, man, that was just terrible. I feel awful about it. And then getting home and checking Twitter, and people were like, "Oh my God, that was an exciting game. That was a lot of fun." Like. And then you could think back overall, and it's almost you can use that same, you can extrapolate that for the entire season. It's easy to look back at the season right now and say, man, what a wasted opportunity. We 13 unbeaten, top of the league for most of the year, struggled late, slipped in the 5th, got bounced out at the first time. Like that's what we're all kind of focused on because that's the immediate part. But when you start looking at the entire season, and I was back at the stadium the next day for the Stadium of Screams haunted house And I ran into Neil Collins there, they had just gotten back in town around 10 a.m. This was roughly, I want to say 1:30, 2 o'clock, and he's at the stadium with the kids, kicking the ball around, waiting their turn to go through the haunted house. He's going to take the longer view on it, and rightfully so. I mean, the work that he did this year overall, the club set records in terms of, you had goals, Seba's goals, you had away wins, you had all these, they only conceded 33 goals in 34 games, and there's a lot of good to take from it, even if we don't want to feel that part right now.
Yeah, and that's the thing too, is that, I had this big not tirade, but I had this big thing on Sunday on Twitter where I tried tweeting at everybody I know that I know of on Twitter, as far as that are on the team, whether players, staff, coaches, who are I tried to tweet as many people as I could, because overall this season, if you were to tell me that we were going to make the playoffs in a better than 7 position at the beginning of the year, this is what we were talking about the very first show when we were talking at Shamrock. We're like, just get in. Get in. If you can get better than 7, then you're doing better than anybody expected of you this year. Because nobody expected a team full of players that hadn't played together to do as well as they did this year. Nobody could have predicted that. But this is so sad. It's so sad. It's so sad because after 20 games, you think you're just going to take the whole league and just run away with it like Phoenix is kind of doing, and just
yeah.
What a shame.
All right. Can we go back to that? There's not a ton of value, I don't know, in breaking down the game from Saturday because the season's over. There's going to be changes to the roster, but I want to go back real quick just for a few minutes. What happened in the 76 seconds? Can you explain that?
A lot of it has to do. So I'll say this, and this is something interesting because this kind of does lead into a question that I eventually want to ask folks out and about. We kind of figured coming into this game that the Rowdies were going to probably play a very defensively minded shape and tactically, and that was going to be what we were going to do. We figured just everybody would pile when we would bunker in and maybe hope for a 1-0 counterattack goal. As risky of a type of play as that is, we all kind of figured, because of the rotation that was needed, that we were going to probably do something similar. Mm-hmm. Well, we weren't, and to Neil's credit, we only lost by 1. So, to a certain point, it worked. But on those 2 moments, it was just a matter of people playing too far up the field and getting out of position. And that's the thing too, is that it's not even necessarily out of position. It's just that we kept pressing. We kept throwing numbers up. We kept looking for that attack in strength. But the problem is that teams figured out how to play the Rowdies. Louisville came out with a 4-3-3 with every intention that their 3 forwards were going to park their butts right next to our 3 defenders the whole night.
Right.
So it's not really difficult because teams figured us out. Teams figured out Neil's system and how to beat it. And that's how you do it, because we've been seeing it all year. Well, not all year, but the last 14 games, we've been seeing it over and over and over again.
Mm-hmm.
We got caught up upfield. They get a quick counterattack. Suddenly, at a minimum, it's 3 versus 3. But then, of course, what ends up happening is that it ends up being closer to, say, a 4-on-3 or a 5-on-3 or something like that, because their center attacking midfielder or their right outside midfielder presses in too. And suddenly you're outnumbered in the box on our counterattack, and it's a really simple goal. You just pass it back to the top of the box. There's going to be somebody there. There was no rocket science to that at all.
Nope.
It was as predictable as you could do, because that's seemingly how we've been getting beat this entire time on this stretch. And it furthered this result furthered another point that I think really needs to be mentioned and needs to be emphasized. And that is, we never beat a team when losing at halftime this season. I think we had 6 tries, maybe 7, and never won any of those games. And I think I don't really know what the answer to that is. I don't know necessarily the reason for that, but I think I think that's extraordinary that we could never overcome a halftime deficit to win a game. And it's funny because that was something else we talked about several months ago, being an Achilles heel that the Rowdies would have to face in the playoffs. I think you and I mentioned it like 8-9 weeks ago.
Yeah, you're going to have to come from behind. You're going to have to win on turf. You're going to have to do all these things that we had not shown the propensity to do during the season.
And then didn't do it when it came to...
We were nothing if not consistent. Let's just put it that way.
Exactly. Exactly. So, yeah, that's... The light goes out. 2019 as a season is over.
And kind of look at, and first of all, hats off to Sepa Gonzalez, still fighting late, gets the goal around the 80th minute. Make a couple substitutes, try and honestly, the fact that we Patrick's chiming in to apologize for the camera work. The camera guy had his camera covered with the bag so it didn't get wet everywhere except the lens. We're gonna mail him a piece of cardboard for next season, or hopefully he'll have better camera spots at the new stadium. Oh gosh, I just totally got off track on what we were doing. But Seba gets one last goal for the season, and as you know, we had a number of chances, number of shots that just went wide. A couple times we were like, "This is not it. No, not it." I do want to say thank you to the Rowdies for opening up the stadium. That was a fun experience.
That was fun.
Had a food truck out there. We had people just kind of camping out on the grass. Everybody doing their own commentary for it as well was fun too. That was just fun. That was a fun time overall for the watch party. And I did manage to pick up my goodies. Well, most of my goodies. I'm still waiting on the Beef O'Brady's gift card. That's coming from corporate. So I'm waiting on that. Hopefully soon, and I have some plans for what we may do for that. So stay tuned. It might be beneficial for some of you. We'll see. Anything else you want to say about the game?
I mean, hats off to Louisville. I mean, obviously, like, they haven't lost at home in a playoff game. That's awesome. Good for them. I don't see them going very far, but I still think my team out of the East is Indy. So that was my pick at the beginning as far as the playoffs. So I'm still sticking with that, especially since they're still in it. There's no reason to have to change that yet. Right. But yeah, like I just...
This isn't the Western Conference where you need to pick all the 6 and 7 seeds to begin with.
What the big question is, and here's the hypothetical. As a Rowdies fan, this is the hypothetical that you have to ask yourself coming out of this week, coming out of the end of the season, the playoff loss. If you have a 100% healthy and available lineup, do we beat Louisville on Saturday night? If you have Malik Johnson, if you have Leo Fernandez, if Adoro is healthier,
I think it at least goes to extra time.
Because that's what I think.
Yeah.
I think the teams are incredibly evenly matched. When you have full lineups. But when both of your outside mids are people that have basically never played in those positions pretty much all year.
Right.
I don't know how many. there's a reason nobody in Tampa Bay was expecting much out of this playoff run. There's a reason why it had no hype. There's a reason why nobody was really paying attention to it. Everybody knew what was going to happen.
We do have a request from Patrick.
Uh-oh.
I'm gonna chalk this up in the tactics category, so I'm gonna say it's your responsibility for this one.
Okay.
Can you give a full breakdown of McCarthy's attempted bicycle kick?
Oh, it was great form. I loved the passion and the energy on that. He did everything he could. It was brilliant. He only needs to practice it. That's it. It's simple as that. He just needs to have some fun on a practice field, and I think he's got it nailed down, and who knows, maybe next year.
If he had hit that,
oh my God,
we would have hopped the fence at Al Lang and set a bunch of boats on fire out in the marina.
Oh,
I'm not even kidding.
Oh my God.
Oh, it was nice. It was very nice.
He went up for that, and I just about had a heart attack. So I'm like, is this gonna happen? Is this a thing that's actually possible? Oh my God.
It would be insane.
That would have been the USL moment of the year.
I think so.
That would have been the moment. I don't care what would have happened that would have been the moment of the year. Like a bicycle volley thing from your goalkeeper in stoppage in a play. Come on the road. Like, come on.
All right. So let's break down what's left of the playoffs, because I suspect this is the last time we're going to talk about the playoffs, since they're no longer relevant since we're not in it. Pittsburgh demolished Birmingham 7-0.
Yeah, so much for that comment of, I think Birmingham's a great matchup for Pittsburgh. Yeah, thanks, Birmingham. Jeez, making me look like a fool.
Pittsburgh advances, will host Louisville on Saturday at 7:00. Indy won 1-0 over Red Bull. So Louisville's gonna be extra happy. Like, we're out and Red Bull's out. Like, we're gonna have finally a new Eastern Conference final for the first time in a couple seasons. It was at least the last 2 years, wasn't it, that it was them? 3 years, maybe?
Mm-hmm. Something like that.
So Indy advances and will travel to Nashville. Nashville, who knocked out Charleston 3-1. Pittsburgh, Louisville, who's your pick?
Oh. I'm going with Pittsburgh. Seems to be a confident pick for me, and something that I'm confident. I think Pittsburgh.
I'll say Pittsburgh too, but after extra time. Indy and Nashville?
Indy. Yeah, no, Indy all the way on that one.
Indy's going to ride into town, knock Nashville out, and beat them all the way into MLS.
Or something like that.
So we've both got. I'll back that one up too. So we've got Pittsburgh and Indy meeting in the Eastern Conference Final. Who advances?
Indy. I think Indy's in the championship game.
Okay, so Indy's in the championship.
Because actually, Indy is my pick when the playoffs started. My bracket is Indy winning the championship. You can't see it because of the glare, but Indy is my championship team right now. That's who I predicted.
Meanwhile, in the Western Conference, like it was wild in the West. Sacramento was one of the play-in teams. They beat New Mexico 3-1 midweek, then traveled to Reno for a postseason Donner Pass Derby, which may be my favorite name for any rivalry matchup in U.S. soccer at all. And knocked off second seed Reno 3-1 as well. El Paso knocked off Fresno in what looks to be Fresno's last game as Fresno, at least.
Mm-hmm.
Salt Lake with a 6-2 win over Orange County. Orange County, who I said, hey, they could show up in the final and wouldn't surprise me. And then I actually watched this when I got home. Austin Bold took Phoenix 0-0 through regulation, 0-0 through extra time. It went to like 8 or 9 penalties before there was a winner, and Phoenix won 8-7 on penalties. It was insane to watch.
Yeah, that was fun.
So Phoenix does advance. They'll be hosting Jack Blake, Luke Mulholland, and the Real Monarchs on Friday at 10:30 p.m. El Paso's going to host Sacramento in El Paso's first year of existence Saturday night. You want to make some predictions here too?
So on my bracket, I obviously, like probably with everybody else, predicted Phoenix winning. I actually predicted Monarchs winning this past weekend. So that's my thing. And I'm thinking, of course, Phoenix will take that game. On the other side of the bracket, I did think Reno would take down Sac, so that was kind of surprising to me. But I actually predicted El Paso beating Fresno. So with this, I think El Paso's actually a team that's a bit more on fire at the moment and has a bit more of a upside to them. So I am actually taking them over Sacramento. And of course, like I said, Phoenix over Real Monarchs.
All right, I'll start with Sacramento and El Paso. I'm going to flip it around. I'm taking Sacramento in this. I'm taking Sacramento. I got a good feeling about them. If you can win at the midweek and then go away to one of your rivals and win that game too, that's a lot of composure for a playoff team and for a team. And they're kind of riding the high of their MLS expansion news as well too.
Yeah, the long overdue MLS expansion news.
So I'm going to pick Sacramento over El Paso to move on, and Sacramento moves on to the conference final, where they won't be hosting no matter what. They're going to have to do this whole thing on the road, and it's going to be a fun matchup to watch them take on the Real Monarchs, who are going to beat Phoenix this weekend. I said Phoenix is not making the championship game. They're not going to make it to the conference final. I think they had an incredible run of 20 straight victories, but they've dropped a couple going into the playoffs. They looked very beatable Saturday night to Austin. Jack Blake's going to do it here. Had a brace on last weekend against Orange County. He's going to do it again this time. So you've got Phoenix and Phoenix and El Paso in the conference final, and you have Phoenix advancing?
No.
I
think El Paso is the shock. I think that's the team that ends up taking down
El Paso
Phoenix.
Knocks them out and goes to the championship game. Wow. So
that is my prediction. Yep. I think it's Indy and El Paso in the championship game.
I've got Monarchs and Sacramento. I'm going to go Sacramento. Sacramento, 1 year after getting knocked out in a basically empty stadium on the road, is going to be the road warrior for this set of playoffs. And I have no idea who's going to win. We'll talk about that a lot later when we get to that point, or whoever we see gets there. We kind of had hoped maybe there'd be some news out of the team. Well, I guess I can share this part because I've heard it from a couple of sources, including some with the team, and it's vague enough that I don't think I'm getting anybody in trouble. Right. So I did talk to Neil on Sunday. First of all, I got him to smile. I said, "Look, you've never got to go back to Slugger again," and he was like, "Okay, okay." But he did say
no more Slugger.
They've
no more Slugger.
They got back. They've already been at work. There is already a signing from another team. So we'll wait and see whenever that gets announced. But they've already got. I mean, this in my mind, and I don't know exact dates or anything, but this would have had to have been done before they even played on Saturday. So whoever it was, they saw an opportunity and said, "Let's go sign somebody up." We do know Caleb Richards has already departed, has left, left I think on Sunday or Monday, headed back to England. So best wishes there. Thanks for everything you did here. Always welcome back. Hope to see him around sometime, even if it's just for a visit. And with that, we wait for Rowdy's news. Other than the fact that there's now a supporters page on the website that lists us, which is nice.
Yay. Yeah, we're on the website finally. Woo! No, so okay, well, Jordan Doherty, I don't know if he's back yet, or going back to England yet.
Right.
But I would imagine he's probably gone this week as well. The only reason why we're saying the way we are is because we know Caleb already left.
Yeah.
Like we already know he went on a plane. But more than likely Jordan's going. The Rowdies have that's a massive pair of shoes that we need to fill this offseason. The number 1 minute player on the 2019 season was a player on loan.
All but 2 minutes.
I mean, holy cow.
Yeah.
Wow. See, and to me, that's the thing to me is going into this offseason, there's no question about it that is the most important player piece that we need to add as quickly and as confidently as possible because of that. Like, to me, that's what it is. So it was interesting when we heard the news that we had already signed a player. That at least the contract deal had been kind of worked out and they're maybe just waiting for the official, allowance to,
right,
sign the contracts. I'm sure they probably can't sign it for another couple weeks, I would imagine. Of course, who knows?
I'm guessing all these guys' contracts run through, the end of the season. So,
if not the calendar year, depending on who it is,
Yeah.
Because they might have December to December contracts, is what I'm thinking. So
unless they're Hartford, where apparently they're being paid hourly.
Yes. I was gonna say you get paid minutely. So like if every minute you play in a game, you get a few dollars.
Well, it's like the old joke. They get paid weekly, very weekly.
Very. So obviously, there's a couple of things that are really fascinating about this upcoming offseason, especially for the Rowdies, but even league wide to a certain degree. Obviously, we've got certain needs that we need to fill, but we also know that we're kind of condensing the size of the stadium next year. Ticket prices are going down, which means that revenue by definition has to go down with it because we're not going to be selling as much at the higher prices.
Right.
So, that's something that's going to have to consider is the fact that we don't know how that may or may not impact the types of players that we might be able to go after this year. That's something to consider because who knows what some of these guys are asking for as far as we know some of the higher paid players on this team. And we know this quietly, obviously, because the team doesn't publish this much to my chagrin, but they do that. But here's the thing that's going to be really interesting, though, is the Players Association.
Yep.
That's going to be the really big kicker here. Because you got to remember, when it comes to roster building and how players at this level, to me, the big thing was Tarek Morad's interview this summer, where he's like, I don't sign player contracts just for the sake of making more money. I sign to challenge myself. I challenge myself to go into environments that maybe I'm not used to, maybe something I'm curious in. Maybe there's a coach that talked to me with a different idea for my player positioning and I sign contracts to challenge just to see if I can do it. So when we see, because more than likely the first thing that's going to happen is the team's going to announce the players that are not being offered contracts for next year. But the key there too is that they're probably going to announce players that just aren't returning in general. And that's something to consider, is that some guys do move along just because they have it's a personal, professional thing for them. That's how they conduct themselves. That's the kind of things that excite them. And so you might see a couple of players leave strictly for that. The other thing's going to be everybody. When we see fans talking about ownership, the only thing that we know that they directly control is how much money you're spending on the team. Everybody wants an owner to go wild cash crazy and just throw money everywhere and, outspend all of your opposition, which sounds great in theory. But the margins can be so slim. Because we know, like you and I know, and I know there are others out there that know, players will move for pretty small increments of money. If you offer a 2% raise or a 4% raise from over last year, and somebody's willing to give you 8 and moving to, some other team who, it doesn't even matter who, just insert name here, right, and they're willing to give you an 8% bump compared to a 4% bump, there are a lot of players at this level that will just go ahead and do it. So it's going to be interesting as far as, because that's what makes it tricky and so tricky, is that it's not just a matter of, okay, let's throw enough cash out there to just sign all these guys again, however many we want, and just, and then buy a whole bunch of new players and make this even stronger. And it's not necessarily that easy, because there's more factors to it than that. If somebody's just not, think about it this way. If somebody's just not interested in playing for your club anymore because they don't like the coach or the city or whatever, there's no amount of money that's going to bring him in. And even if he does, do you really want him to be here? So we definitely have to measure ourselves with the reality of what being owned by the Rays and being owned with a team that is cutting ticket prices. We're not going to be the financial juggernaut that we were for the last several years, especially with attendance that's been declining. It's going to go down even further because they're cutting the number of seats available. So attendance, I hate to say, it's going to go down again. There's really no reason why it would go up if they're not offering the seats for season ticket holders, especially. Mm-hmm. So you're not going to be the financial juggernaut that we were 4 years ago, where we're just freewheeling in cash just because.
Yeah.
So, yeah,
we don't have any. You don't have Bill Edwards laundering money by player transactions anymore. I'm just making a joke. Please don't sue me for that. I'm not making any allegations. Right. It'll be a try. I'm kind of also peeking over at the Norwich's U23s and academy players right now. See who, if anyone jumps out as someone that might be a possibility to end up here for a year. Because if we look at it, and I want to do a lot more research on some of these topics and do it more in depth later on. That loan worked out pretty good. That might be the biggest win-win loan ever. Norwich sent him here to get playing time, and he played all but 2 minutes of the season. And it wasn't just he played because that was the deal. It was legitimately one of the best players on the team.
Yeah,
one of the best players in the league. So the Rowdies got a good player, and he got a lot of time to develop and play and go against some older players, some more physical players, and a chance to develop himself as well. So hopefully he goes back and it pays off in Norwich for him, and this kind of relationship keeps going.
Agreed. And it also raises a fascinating point too about what is the Rowdies' need. The individual perceptions of what we would think is the need. Is the defense the position that we need the most help in because Richards is gone? Or is it a midfield problem? This is going to be a fascinating offseason. After the success we had this year, this is going to be a fun offseason, just because. I mean, we finished as a 5 seed. That's phenomenal for a first full season head coach. That's phenomenal. And I'm so happy that Neil got the success that he did this year. It'll be interesting to see how we end up trying to build on that in terms of players.
I mean, he did also say that it was going to be a busy offseason, but not the amount of turnover that we had the year before. So looks like he's identified at least, or thinks he has identified kind of a core group. And you're gonna make changes either if someone leaves or upgrades as they become available in certain positions.
Yeah, but keep in mind
changes of last year in his mind at least.
Yeah, but I say keep in mind though, keeping the core group really only means like maybe 8 players.
Yeah,
like you basically keep 8 of your starting 11, and that's your core group. Everybody else are what you would consider expendable at that point. So, when they say things like that, our perception of what that means can be really different. like we think the core group sometimes is like 16 players, and we're just talking about rotating like maybe a couple of the fringe guys,
right?
And upgrading like a Leon Taylor to somebody else. That's not necessarily what that means. It means like 8 guys.
Well, and you.
And then think about this. Depending on who you sign, there's no guarantee that those 8 players that you kept from last year that were mostly starters this year, there's no guarantee that those guys are going to be the starter after your training sessions in the spring.
Mm-hmm.
So keeping the core guys together really doesn't give us any hints as to what it could really mean.
And in reality, then you've also keeping the core together. Now, it's worked great for Louisville the last, 3 years now.
This is true. Of course, they're also one of the bigger spenders, I bet, in the league.
Yeah. I mean, some of it's by default because I think we were probably, Indy, were probably tops in the league for a while. And I think both have we know we've pared back dramatically with the change in ownership. I suspect Indy has probably done something similar, just based on the amount of money that they have to spend to play in Lucas Oil Stadium to begin with, probably has an impact. Yeah, it's gonna be interesting to see what happens. But
that's okay. We're not one of those big, like, awesome spending clubs and healthy anyways, right? We're not one of those healthy clubs, right? We're not on the short list of USL healthy clubs, right, Matt?
No. Yeah, we're definitely not a solid club.
No,
definitely
not
not
at all.
Solid. Just not one of the first 5 names that pops into a certain sports writer's head. I forgot where you were going with that for a second, and then I was like, oh, wait a second. Okay.
You had this dumbfounded look, and I was like, I'm going to just drag this thing on until the light bulb goes off.
Oh, God, that guy can jump right into the sea. I
can't believe that man is as popular as he is, and yet the impressions and the things he says are just garbage most of the time. Oh, anyways.
It's almost like us, except we're not
dumber
paid professionals. No, like us, but given a real job.
I don't know, man. We're now on the website, so maybe we have to step it up another notch.
Let's start wearing pants.
Yeah. At Shamrock.
I mean, this is the whole reason I do this is because I don't have to wear pants. And look, you're right now wondering, because you can only see, chest up from the webcam. Right now, you're wondering if I'm still wearing pants. I know you are.
I
will tell you, I
am
not wearing the kilt that I wore for most of the day.
I got to admit
that
that question has not crossed my mind at all. The entire show or the entire season.
Don't find yourself thinking about me not wearing pants a lot, huh?
I can't say the thought has crossed my mind ever.
This is gold content right here.
This is what happens when the Rowdies lose. Anyways.
Yeah. Hey, want me to put some pants on? Win some
games. So moving on to another topic, there is a team on the move in the USL this year.
Well, we've got some nice little segue there.
You're welcome.
So we'll go. The only other real news around the league right now, and God, most of it's out of the Western Conference. I don't even want to talk about it because I didn't know it existed until last week.
Yeah, right.
But the Charleston Battery, have been sold to a new owner. They've announced that they are playing their home games at I don't even.
College of Charleston's stadium.
I just don't want to say it. Yeah,
thing.
College of Charleston's stadium at Patriots. It's a 1,000 seat stadium on a small college campus
Across the river from downtown.
across the river from downtown. Now, remember when they sold the stadium last year, it's because they were going to get a downtown place
They were
to
going to
play.
do downtown. That was the goal.
Now they're about
Uh-huh.
like halfway between where they were and downtown. It seems like.
No, it's like the same. It's like equidistant.
Same
It's-
distance.
It's a joke. Yeah, it's a joke.
It's only a 1,000 seater, but the new owner says his daddy is on the board of directors for it's either construction or architecture firm, so he's going to get it all fixed up. I have no experience in construction and or architecture, but I did look at the stadium on Google Maps today, and I don't know where you fit 4,000 more seats in there. It's right up against a baseball field and a softball field. And on one side and right up against the roads on the other side. There's like next to no parking.
Yeah, I don't get it.
It looks a lot like the situation Charlotte's in, except I think they have more seats out of that stadium. But I know they're looking. It just,
You know what it looks like? You know what it looks like? It looks like a really nice place to play USL League One.
yeah. And this is
That's what it looks like.
We were talking about this before the show started, and the previous owners of Charleston came in. They owned the team for about 3 years, sold off the stadium, sold off the land, and it basically feels like that's what they were. They came in to flip that asset, and then now they are left with a soccer team, which they could sell at a substantially reduced price than what they paid for it because they made their money off the real estate sales. So this guy who took the team over, best wishes to him. I hope he does a good job. Charleston's one of those places that a lot of our fans like to go to, and a game that they like to travel for. But if he's, depending on what price level he bought in at this, is he able to operate it at a USL Championship level? If he can't make the stadium, the seating arrangements work out, they're supposedly signing a deal to play there until 2023. I hate to say it, but I can almost see them, struggling through the season and then going, you know what, we're going League One.
Let's say this. One of the things, and of course, how many owners do we hear this from when we have a sale for a team? We're going to be transparent. Transparency is our goal. Now, granted, in all fairness, we have to give them a chance.
Absolutely.
We do need to give them a chance.
The people in Charleston seem to be pretty good about
so
it.
Far.
They're more
so far.
They're
and
closer
and it's
situation
important
than us,
to note
so.
that again, when you look at what happened with this previous owner, it was shady as garbage from the very beginning. Everything about that guy that sold the team and sold the land and everything else, everything about that guy was secretive and bullcrap from the very beginning. So in a lot of ways, the new ownership has to come out and say, oh, we're going to be a transparent organization, everything else. Because if they really don't try and make that an emphasis, then nobody's going to buy back into this team as far as a feeling, as far as making this a professional long-term thing anymore. People just aren't going to buy into it. So that has to be your selling point as a result. Now, here's a thought. And I hope that this ends up becoming true. I have no idea if this is true or not, but I hope this is what ends up coming true. What if we've heard about the modular stadium idea, whatever, some sort of temporary seating arrangement increase of the facility at College of Charleston Stadium.
Right.
And we know that they're there till at least 2023. That's what the negotiation is for right now. That does help in one really important aspect. What if this really is about trying to find a proper long-term home somewhere in the proper side of the river in Charleston? What if, again, the announcement was made today, so nobody knows. Nobody really knows what the long-term plan of the goal of the club is. They've barely started talking of the new ownership.
Right.
So we don't know. We don't know a thing, right? Nobody knows a thing. I don't even know if they know what they're doing per se. But the possible light at the end of the tunnel is that maybe the 2023 year is the hope that maybe in, say, 2024, for example, they might have a proper place to play on the correct side of the river.
Well, and one of the articles I read, so when they sold the stadium, the then owner's intention was to go back to the field they had played at before moving into that stadium.
At the Citadel.
No, it was another stadium before that.
Well, there was the high school stadium before that. I thought.
that was the first thing because that was where they had played before.
Yeah.
And something times or scheduling, whatever, wasn't going to work out with that. Then they were looking at the Citadel Stadium. It's I think under being renovated. There's new turf, something being put in. It wasn't going to be available in time. Not
to mention you had a very cranky governorship or whatever you want to call the head of Citadel that wasn't really interested in having that conversation of sharing that facility.
Right. And so this was kind of the third choice. So it's, at that point, it's, what else is available? So I know they're signing this till 2023, but these other two options could be other possibilities after that point. Also, ideally, building a new stadium, including a new Three Lions pub, would be the way to go, I would say. But this is a lower division American soccer, and I have no misconceptions at all that anything works out for the better.
I have an interesting question that if I had the ability of putting on like Wonder Woman's lasso of truth onto somebody, I would do it to Jake Edwards, and this would be my question in regards to this whole scenario. How knowledgeable was USL to the intention that this Charleston owner was planning on selling the land that the stadium was sitting on for that club? How did they know what was going on? Was that move signed off by USL when the new ownership came in? How were they able to get any kind of a commitment from that club? Because to me, the way that this whole thing smells and sounds like is that guy literally came in to destroy the club. He saw a quick, easy way to make some cash, and he didn't care if he burned bridges in the meantime or killed people or put people out of work or ruined the reputation of a city or whatever. He didn't care. He saw money. I want to know when and if USL had any idea that was going to happen and what their reaction to it or what their actions as a result of all of this. That's what I want to know. Were they involved in like maybe the new ownership group coming in, but did they take a lead on getting the new people into this whole thing? Because like I said, to me, that's the thing that kills me. Because this guy that was in Charleston was shady from the beginning, and he literally just destroyed the club. You just destroyed, I mean, granted it was months ago, but you destroyed the Charleston Battery. They had a stadium, they had a great pub, they had a great brand. You did nothing to promote it, basically, and you sold it the first chance you got for $6 million. Screw you. Screw you. $6 million, that's all? That's it?
Yeah. It's a mess.
And I knew the moment they sold the club before announcing where they were going to play the next season, I knew from the get-go that was bad.
Yeah.
You don't sell your home stadium without having a plan to play next year.
Unless you don't plan on owning the team the next year.
Unless you don't plan on, or not having unless you didn't think there was going to be a club.
Yep.
I think he intentionally tried to kill it. And I want to know where and if and how USL was involved in this whole thing. Because if they came in to save the club by getting this other group in here, kudos to them. That's cool. But, where were you 2 years ago or 3 years ago or 4 years ago when this other guy was coming in to buy the club?
I did think it was pretty interesting that every time they mentioned Jake Edwards in connection with this whole thing, they mentioned former Battery player Jake Edwards. Like,
yeah, right.
Like Jake says it's going to be okay, so it's going to be okay.
Yeah.
Like, we'll see. All right, the other news, and this has been kind of going around online for a while. It seems like something is imminently happening. Fresno's coach even came out and said yesterday or Monday perhaps that barring a miracle, there will be no Fresno FC next year. Rumors are anything from shutting down completely to picking up and moving to a new town. So I guess they'd be the Fresno Kings Dons Foxes FC.
Foxes Wanderers, Foxes. I don't know. Like,
Fresno.
I would just rename it I would just rename
anymore.
it Wanderers FC and be done with it.
Rovers Wanderers.
Yeah, there you go, Rovers.
Rovers
Keep the dog.
Wanderers. Yeah. So, which it sucks. I think and the coach goes back and I haven't paid enough attention to them to say, what happened or what could have been done differently or whatever. But the coaches kind of said, look, you can trace back. We had this great run. They're the ones who snapped Phoenix's winning streak, and they don't win again after that, because it's kind of like immediately after that is when the news comes out that the things don't look good for them as far as staying in Fresno. And the coach kind of put the blame for their last stretch and then for getting beat by Sacramento in the playoffs on the news, basically, which it makes sense. It's unsettling. You don't know what's going on. You don't know where you're going to be living, playing, what's going, any of the kind of thing. So I get it from one hand. It sucks for the fans who've been going. It sucks for the supporters groups. It sucks for pretty much everybody. But we'll hear what's going to happen. I suspect any day now, maybe even before Friday. We'll see. There's nothing else really. We can talk about the MLS game if you want to. I don't know. I don't really want to. Some of the other things we got coming on. So, the team's not ready to announce their changes yet. We're going to be doing some changes and stuff behind the scenes. Some of them are already in motion. Right after we got the club to link to us on the website, we're actually going to change the website. The link on the website will still work for a while, though. We've got plans. So it won't be a giant change, but it'll be hopefully it'll just be for the better all around.
It'll be okay. Yeah, it's a web hosting change basically is what we're looking at. So we might change the hyperlink essentially. The hyperlink name's going to probably change. So I will see. It's the domain name and things like that. Who knows? We'll see what happens. There's just ideas we're kicking around.
And then other stuff we're gonna do also. Also with the off season and the trickle of news coming out of Al Lang, then we are looking at right now at least taking a break next week, unless of course a bunch of news comes out.
Unless there's a ton of news, yeah. What do you want to do? Do you want to do? And it's funny we're talking about this on the air. Do you want to do like maybe once a month or once every other week, or just as news develops?
Let's at least keep it twice a month.
Okay. So just go every other week.
Yeah, because there's stuff we can dig into some of the results, some of the stats, some of the performances, and come up with some stuff to talk about. But give us a chance to do some more kind of deep dive research into some of the stuff to talk about, so that we don't get into the conference call like 10 minutes before we go on air and go, what the crap are we talking about tonight? Well, we lost. What else? Charleston. Yeah. Okay. So unless now knowing our history, and you'll come to appreciate this, every time we come on and make an announcement or do a show or do something, as soon as we're done, like the Rowdies will announce, a bunch of re-signings.
Yeah, it happens like clockwork.
It'll happen tomorrow probably at this point.
You might as well just send out that tweet that has all the red emergency lights,
yes.
Police lights. It's all the way across it.
Just keep
breaking news, and just leave it at the tweet. Like, just leave that. Like, that's the tweet. Just breaking news with all the things. It just and then just like tweet again, like under it or something like that. Sorry, just warming it up.
I'll just keep that in the drafts and hang on to it. But But yeah, we're short show. Well, I say short show. We're already at 9 o'clock.
Oh no, we're at an hour.
We just haven't done an hour and a half like we have before.
Yeah.
So,
which is something we got to figure out. But there's maybe doing a simulcast or something with the video feed or something like that where people could watch us in live, real life time too. Who knows? There are things we could try out during the off season. So
you will get no such thing, Patrick. There will be no breakdown and apology when Lou City doesn't win this weekend. Take that.
Oh, if
being tormented.
No. You see, because here's the thing: if Louisville loses big against, like, if Pittsburgh blows out Louisville like 7-0.
All right, that's not going to happen.
Okay. I'm just saying, just for Patrick, I will do an hour-long breakdown as to why Louisville sucked on the night, and that how Pittsburgh just absolutely ate their lunch and breakfast and dinner. And yes, I will, just for you, Patrick, I will do an hour-long breakdown of why your team sucks if that actually comes to fruition. You're welcome, and you deserve that.
All right, so let's wrap it up. I do have one. I'll tell you about it later. I have an idea for something we can do later. All right. We love yous. Everybody who came out to the watch party on at Al Lang, like that was a fun group. The people you kind of like, we don't get a chance to talk to everybody during the games because you're running the chant, you're doing the songs, we're watching the game, whatever, and it's just like, let's just plop down on the grass here, hang out, crack some jokes. Try to kick a ball into a bucket and hope to God that the Rowdies win. So that's my We Love You. Thanks. Hats off to the team for doing that. Hopefully we don't have road playoff games in the future, so it's not a regular thing. But just the ability to go out there and do that is kind of fun.
It was fun. I enjoyed that too. So my We Love You is every single person that has worked part-time, full-time, salaried, I don't care. Every single person involved with the Rowdies. I did a string of tweets on Sunday trying to pick out as many of them as possible, that I know of that's on Twitter. I really honestly do love everything about this club. That's why I do what I do. And so I'm looking forward to a good off season. I'm looking forward to a good discussion of off season, and I can't wait to see everybody again. I know there's always a holiday party type event thingy majiggery during the off season. There's always not always, but there is going to be the Bundesliga game in January. So I'll probably get to see a lot of you folks there, but that'll probably be the next time any of us are ever really at Al Lang.
Screw you, I'm going this weekend. I'm just going.
You're just going?
I'm just going. My wife and daughter are going to be out of town again. I'm just going to go. Go sit in my seat one last time.
And then at some point, we're all going to get the chance to redecorate the stadium and everything else because we're going to be doing the section move. Can't wait.
Going to need a little paint.
Little paint. It's going to be good. It's going to be a lot of fun. That first layer of paint is going to be something truly special.
Indeed. All right, let's wrap it up from there. Thank you to Wolfface, to Radio St. Pete, and to Shamrock. Thanks to all of you who find time to listen to us either live or podcast later on. Please continue to share, subscribe, rate, and review the show wherever you're listening to it to torment more people to this subject more people to this torment. If you'd like to support us on an ongoing basis, there's the Patreon, patreon.com/unusedSubsPod. Thanks, as always, to our sponsor, Roughneck Scarves, the official scarf supplier of MLS, USL, and US Soccer. Get custom scarves for your group or team at roughneckscarves.com. For one last time this season, Steven, it's been fun. I will see you sometime, and I'll talk to you. We'll talk.
A week or two.
We'll talk.
But no, it'll be good.
Don't forget, we got that thing Monday night if you're in St. Pete if you're going.
Oh yeah, that's true.
So maybe we can swing by Al Lang then.
Well,
if we could build a statue of Georgie over the weekend, we could place it in the rotunda up there.
oh my gosh.
Told my daughter on Sunday we need. She goes, "Yeah, it's a great place for a statue, Dad." I have my moments. All right, let's get out of here. We'll talk to you guys soon. Pay attention to Facebook and Twitter, and we'll tell you when we will be back on the air.
Yes.
Watch,
And
they're going to announce like a ton of signings tomorrow. Just in
I know
contracts,
they're going to
everything,
screw with
just
us.
to
It's
give
going to be great.
Yeah.
Anyways, it doesn't matter because we still love all of you. Thank you for listening this season. Now that we're going into the off season, thank you so much for a happy 2019. It was fun being on the show. This has been a great experience. I hope, Matt, that you've had fun having me on the show, and I hope that I've added something to it.
Well,
yeah, you listen here. No, it's. But otherwise, this has been fun, and yes, for one last time, this will mark the end of the 2019 season. Go, Rowdies!
Screw the refs.
The Rowdies were there, the Rowdies were there, they kicked the wall.